Cooked with Eric Reed and Midwest Professional Reps. Here's your host, Eric Reed.
Hey, welcome to Cooked with Eric Reed. I hope this is your second listen, but if it's not, I'll do a quick recap of what you can expect from us. So I am Eric Reed, your host, with Midwest Professional Reps, and we're a food service manufacturers rep group. So what that means is we represent a certain amount of food service manufacturers, food service equipment and supply manufacturers, and we represent them in a given territory, specific region. In this case, ours is Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri, and Southern Illinois. There are reps across the country and in Canada, and we all represent different manufacturers, and our job is to go out and be the sales force for those manufacturers that hire us. So instead of them having a direct salesperson in absolutely every state, all of those given regions, they hire us as a third-party company and have us go out, see customers, get them excited to buy our equipment, and really drive their presence in the area. And then we're here for after-sale support as well. So, after somebody buys one of our pieces of equipment, we come out, we can train on it, we make sure that they get what they need, and really keep things rolling. We're going to, basically throughout this entire podcast, throughout this entire series, we're going to be using that lens of what we do to look at all aspects of the food service realm. So we'll have different guests on from across the board. We'll have some of our manufacturers on. We'll probably grab some end users, a couple of dealers, whatever pops up is kind of the journey we'll go on. So coming up on today's show, we're going to talk about the National Restaurant Association show coming up here in mid-May. And we're going to have Ryan Catarozoli with Hatco Corp join us. He's the director of key accounts. He and I have known each other for about 8 years when I first started this job. And we've been through quite a few trade shows together and have been to several NRAs together. And I thought it'd be a great fit because I believe the first time I met Ryan was at an NRA. Nope, that's not entirely true. He came into territory. And then right after we went to NRA. But we've had some fun experiences going through trade shows, and thought it'd be a good fit to talk about this going into the upcoming NRA show. If you are going by the show, please make sure that you stop by and see the manufacturers that we represent, that Midwest Professional Reps represents, that will have there: 1880 Hospitality, Imberglow, Fermad Shelving, Frosty Factory, FWE, Hatco, Hoshizaki, Hospitality Brands, Jackson Warewashing, Mara Forney, Samick, and Thunder Group will all be having booths at the show. Matt O'Donnell and I will also be at the show. We get into Chicago on that Friday, and we'll be there through Sunday. So if you're there, one of our customers want to see something, stop into our booths, reach out, and we'd love to see you while we're there too. And then something else that we want to make sure that you get by and see if you're going to the NRA show is the Kitchen Innovations Awards section. So the Kitchen Innovations Award is legitimately new, exciting products, things that haven't been seen before, that solve a direct problem, that are using technology that makes things easier for kitchens to operate. It's a really cool section of the show. It does a very good job of showing you where food service manufacturers are taking their equipment, the technology they're using, the advances that have come into play that your average everyday operation might not realize is available to them. At the end of the day, especially like independent restaurants, when you walk back in the kitchen, a lot of times people are still relying on a convection oven, a 6-burner range with a low boy oven, a deep fryer, and they'll have a sandwich prep table and a steam well. There are different configurations, different variations, things that you can see that not everybody uses, but for the most part, those are kind of the key of a lot of restaurants and a lot of food service operations. And getting to the show, and especially going into that Kitchen Innovation Awards area, shows you the new stuff that's available, the new things that are coming out, and things you may not have thought about that are super useful in your kitchen that can really help you. Hoshizaki, for instance, this year has something in it, and it is a pizza prep table. So all your toppings are up top, and you actually stretch the dough and build the pizza on typically it's a cutting board on the table itself. Hoshizaki has made some changes to that. The top is actually a slightly different design. There's some extra space to store more stuff. There are little lift-up doors. But one of the biggest things on that is that they took what's normally that cutting board top that you're putting all your toppings on top of it, and then you got to go back and wipe the board down, keep it clean so that the crust isn't picking everything up that's there. And they've actually put in basically like a drain trough. And so any of the overage, anything you spill, anything that falls down into through a grate and down into a little catch bin. And then you can actually, at the end of the day, just take the grate off, lift that bin out, and empty it out, or clean up whatever you need from it. And it just keeps things cleaner, streamlined, less stopping and wiping stuff down, and it's just a little easier to get going. So that one's really cool. It'll be there. Samick won an award a couple years ago for their large-scale rethermalizer, their precision rethermalizer, and that's they made it possible to sous vide in a 30-gallon tank. So it is it really changed a lot of stuff and made they got an award as well. So it's really cool to see some of the stuff that's coming out and some of the things that are available to people. So make sure you stop by there. And then also, if you have the time to get by some of the educational sessions, they always have speakers. They always have, some of them will be celebrity chefs. Some of them will be high-end operators, high-volume operators. You'll have some business breakouts and stuff. All of these are included, when you get your pass. And there's some great information that's out there. I remember going to an NRA as an end user, as an operator, and sitting in the audience listening to Rick Bayless talk about different menu items, things that are a little less expected with, especially with the Mexican flair, because that's his specialty, and incorporating them into menus. And I remember sitting there with my phone out, legitimately my notes app open, writing menu items that I wanted to incorporate into our catering menu, just because it gave me ideas that I hadn't thought about something that I could do with that before. We're not talking about I wasn't completely redesigning our menu and adding a complete Mexican section to it, but especially with our catering stuff and past hors d'oeuvres and trade hors d'oeuvres, I could take some different flavor profiles that he was talking about and use stuff that was already on our catering guide and just tweak it and give yet another option and give more options to the people without adding a ton of flavor to me or my staff. So it can be super informative for operations just to get different ideas flowing. I absolutely love that section of it. And then lastly, probably most people's favorite parts of the show is all the after hours activity. There are always events going on, parties, different manufacturers will host dinners, parties, have stuff going on all the time. And so there's always somewhere to go. There's always something to see. We've had manufacturers host a Sunday night party, Sunday night cocktail hour, and actually unveil new product there. We've had them do tastings on the new dinnerware that they're going to be showing, or have cocktails in the new glassware that they're rolling out, so that you can really get a feel for things that are coming out, touch it, feel it, and use it and understand how to incorporate that into your operation, or from the dealer side, how to sell that to your customers, how to sell that to the operations that you're working with on a regular basis. Welcome, everybody. Ryan Catarozoli with Hatco Corp. Give us just kind of a little quick about you and your position at Hatco.
Sure. So I've been with Hatco now 10 years, and my current role is the Director of Key Accounts. So I oversee a team that handles what we consider key accounts, which would be our major chain, our concepts, our OEM fabricator accounts, as well as some government business. Be happier to be here at Hatco.
Nice. Yeah, and we have a great time representing you guys. You guys are always amazing to us as well, and customers always really like working with you guys too. So it's an awesome relationship.
So our manufacturers representatives across the country, we have a great group of them, but specifically MPR has been handling this account for many, many years. He's working with our dealer partners, working with our consultant partners. So it's not realistic to think that I could be at every place at any time. But so we have reps across the country that do a really, really great job for us. MPR being one of our best, pitching Hatco, top of mind, always keeping their customers updated on the latest and greatest when it comes to service issues, warranty issues, shipping issues. They're the front lines for hearing those responses from the customer and being able to react and handle those to allow us on the regional side of things to be able to do more management as opposed to having to be in each one of the territories across the country.
One of the things that I said that I would tease, because it was mentioned, you have somebody who knows what they're doing on Zoom when their background is blurred the minute they get on, and everything's set and ready to go. And Ryan could talk more about it, but during COVID lockdowns, Ryan ran an entire YouTube series. Yeah, every day Ryan had a different segment, a different product, or a different product family.
A lot of it was working via Teams and via Zoom. And so, you were really worried, like, am I going to have a job tomorrow? Because, there wasn't a lot going on at the time. So we ended up coming up with a great idea, or I say great idea, was to come up with our own podcast. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts during that time and thought, oh, I could maybe do this in the food service space. Probably made a lot of mistakes along the way, but learned a lot as well. But because there was so little going on, I created what was called Placed in Shelter. You can still find it on YouTube. There's probably 14 hours of me on there. And it started out really easy because I could pick a category within Hatco and I could give a 15 to 20 minute little spiel on that. We did it to a live Zoom audience, and then we recorded it and put it on YouTube. So it really became something to do every single day. At times it was very challenging because you started getting to 24, 25, you get to 30, 40 different episodes, and you start running out of certain things to talk about because you've kind of covered everything that there was at Hatco. I did some really great interviews with some people in the industry. So I learned a lot. It's very different to work through a digital format as opposed to presenting to people in person. But so I learned a lot about myself. I probably should have done once a week or maybe even once every 2 weeks and had it last longer. But we went hard and fast, if you will. And we did one every single business day for 50 straight business days.
Kind of getting into it, we're focusing this episode on NRA. And I thought you'd be a good fit because that was one of my really early experiences with you. And my God, how many trade shows have you been through at this point?
Yeah, so trade shows have evolved so much, over even just my 15 years in the industry. There was a point in time where the only way you could see new equipment or put your hands on something was to go to a trade show and see it in person. Now obviously today we've got video format and the, internet, websites, videos. You've got augmented reality where you can kind of use your phone and see what it looks like in the room. So there's a lot of that technology that's come a ways, which made just seeing new products a bit obsolete. But when it comes to the trade shows, you really cannot beat the amount of customers that we get to see. So when I can go attend an NRA show and we see, 100, if not more, of our biggest customers, all of our major concepts, all of our major chains, our dealers, our consultants. And then at the same time, you're seeing somebody in Chicago who has a one restaurant that's 3 blocks away from McCormick, and they're looking for a solution to hold the pizza so that they can have a late night to go program. So it's really just that getting out in front of the customer and being able to kind of be a solution provider and feel like I'm offering some knowledge and some expertise when it comes to how we're going to hold certain products. So I think that's really the relationship aspect of things and being in front of our customers.
Didn't you find out you were promoted at a trade show once?
Yeah, so gosh, many, many years ago, I was working for another company, and at that time we had done a lot of the setup and tear down of the trade show. So you would come in for an NRA, and you would get there on a Thursday for setup, Friday setup, and then the show obviously starts on Saturday, and then you'll even be there at Wednesday for teardown. And so our company had gone quite some time without a vice president of sales and marketing. It was just kind of us regional managers, and then we had a president that we reported to, but we had been doing fine kind of on our own for quite some time. And at NRA, like many other manufacturers do, they always have kind of a rep meeting where all the reps come in. And one of the topics of discussion was that this particular company did not have a VP of sales and marketing. We hadn't had one for a while. And so when that topic came up, some of the reps had voiced my name and said that I'd be a good candidate for it. And had no idea. I wasn't there. I was actually at the booth setting up because at the time I was one of the regionals. And so my phone starts blowing up, and it must have been 15, 20 messages. Congratulations, congratulations. And I had no idea what any of it meant. I thought they were just congratulating me based on like the LinkedIn profile that I had just hit a year or 2 years or whatever the number happened to be. But then I later found out that they had kind of pushed me in this meeting, and I got a promotion to VP of Sales and Marketing right there at the show, which rather unique. So that was kind of my favorite NRA story. Can't beat a promotion.
Before we get, into too much more of that, give you a minute to talk about what Hatco has going on at the show. Just kind of give a preview. What should people stop by and see, and what's new, what's different with the booth.
Yeah, so if you haven't been to one of the larger shows in a while, it was the last NAFM that we had. We had a huge investment into a new booth space. So the first thing you'll notice about Hatco is the layout is completely different. Big giant banner overhead. We have all of the brands under one umbrella now. Ovention, American Range, FWE, Hatco Sneeze Guards. So everything's all together under one. I think I got all of them there. So that's the first thing you'll notice is going to be the look of the booth is much different than you experienced in the past. But really some of the things on the Hatco side to call out, we have an air curtain merchandiser. It was the FS3 model. We actually will be showing the FS4, and it's made a ton of huge improvements. We've put all glass on the side of the unit, so it opens up the viewing area by about 40%, doubled the amount of LED lights, repositioned the shelves to give you more usability of the top shelf. And we also changed the crumb tray design, so it's easier to manage and work with. We've also moved a lot of the service components to different parts of the unit so that it gets it away from the heat and also makes it a little bit more serviceable. So that's the biggest thing you'll notice. The other one is our FSDT line. We've had this forever. I'm sure any convenience store you've been to that displays pizza on the rotating rack, everyone's seen this before. But we have redesigned it now. So we've moved all of the components to the lower end of the unit. So the top of it is going to be all glass now. So it really gives it a new design, a new look, but still the same performance that you've known from Hatco forever. So those would be the two biggest ones. Some of the other highlights are going to be our induction side of things. The induction world is still growing. So, a long time ago, we had just our countertop offering, but now we've got built-ins, we've got warming options, we have a griddle top now, we're going to have a 6-burner range, we're going to have an induction wok. So the induction space is really, growing rapidly. So those would be some of the biggest items to come and see this year at the booth that would be different or new than things you've seen in the past.
Nice, that's awesome. Yeah, and I'm excited to actually see the new FS3 HAC in person because all I've seen at this point is pictures.
What I like to talk about is you really have had the same holding capabilities for a long time. So you have what's considered our traditional merchandiser where you have a heated base and then you use an overhead heat source which absorbs the radiant heat. Those are fantastic for quick service when I know I'm going to fill it up and 20 minutes later it's going to be empty and then I fill it up again. But as you prolong that hold time and you get out to 2, 3, and 4 hours, the quality does start to come down on the products because it's sitting directly on the heated base. There's no getting around that. We've tried some trivets in the past to raise it up a little bit, and that does help, but it's still no substitute. So then somebody would say, well, how do I get, the same quality hold, but, better quality for longer periods of time? And really the only real answer we had was to move into a cabinet. And the cabinet does a couple of things really well. It controls the environment. It can introduce humidity if need be, does some really good merchandising things like rotating racks. But most importantly, the food product is no longer sitting directly on the heating element. It's being enveloped by the air within that cabinet. So in a cabinet, I can get 2, 3, 4 hour hold times. But a lot of people have done studies that show that if there's an obstruction between the guest and a food product, they're less likely to reach and open the door. Whether or not that's true, I didn't do the research myself, but we have had that feedback from customers that they like the open air of the merchandiser, but would love to get some longer quality hold times. So introducing the FS3 was the first of its kind, which was an air curtain merchandiser, where it basically took those two concepts and blended them together. So you're going to get the hold times of a cabinet, but the accessibility of the merchandiser. So within that unit, I can freely grab and go as I please, but at the same time, I'm going to get 2, 3, 4 hour hold times out of that unit. So it really took off. It's been an extremely popular unit. And the FS4 is really just feedback from the field in which we're now making changes to the unit, updating the crumb tray that was a little bit cumbersome to use, adding more LED lights, like I said earlier. So all of the changes that we made aren't to the performance of the unit, but just little things here and there, kind of like the next model of a car vehicle.
That should be a cool piece. Um, that being said, I know booth setup and all the hours that I kind of keep them, but I don't have to get in for booth setup, and luckily most of the time I don't have to be there for booth meetings at 8 a.m. Had a few of those throughout the time. Kind of leads us into a nice setup for NRA stories. NRA story time. Because over the time I've heard plenty of stories of people sleeping in random parts of the booth, or going back in the, some of the places will have like the little closet. I know you guys usually do, tucked in somewhere so that you can keep some supplies and whatever. And like guys showing up to the booth for an 8 a.m. meeting, it's over at 8:30, and they're like, oh, thank God. And then they go climb in the closet in the back and go back to bed because they took customers out all night. That doesn't necessarily have to be the story, but do you have a favorite story of events from NRA?
Man, there's so many. And part of the stories end up bleeding together because, things like the NAC show also gets held in Chicago. So sometimes the different shows blend together. But one of the other kind of favorite story I have is when I was at my previous job before I was starting here at Hatco, I was walking through the halls of NRA, going to the bathroom or something like that, and I stumbled across a legend in the industry, Louis Annick the third. Or no, he's the junior, excuse me, Louis. So Lou Annick, I actually grew up with him. Not him, but his kids. So he was from Mugwanago, Wisconsin, and his children went to school with me. We went to the same church. So I've known Louis my whole life, and I had no idea what he did for work. And it wasn't until I was walking through NRA one day where we both kind of did the, hey, wait a second, I know you. And so he started asking me what I was doing. I asked him what he was doing. And then, long story short, when an opportunity came about to come over to Hatco and potentially work in the key accounts department under him, I was able to make the transition over to Hatco and work under my mentor in the industry, Louis, for forever. And I still talk to him every day. He still lives, not every day, but quite often. He still lives in Mugwanago, so I still get to see him and talk to him. So he's been a huge impact on my career.
Nice. That's awesome. I remember when I first started, that was the biggest thing that was said to me is, you can, stuff like this, you can have as much fun as you want. If somebody, wants to go out, or you feel like going and experiencing downtown Chicago, go to wherever it might be, you want to go out, have fun, but you better answer the bell. You better be at the show when it opens in the morning?
Yeah, I think some of it is just, training, being able to go out and hold your own. But no, it's very important to be out with our customers and developing relationships. And, there's only so much that can happen as I'm giving a sales presentation. You don't really get to know who Ryan is and the things that we do for fun and some of the other things we have in common. Whereas being able to go out and have a couple of drinks or be able to sit down and break bread and have a dinner together, you really develop a very different relationship with that person. You get to know them at a different level. So just doing that on a regular basis, and sometimes it does lead to some after hours fun, and then the next mornings are can be a little bit difficult. And NRA is one of the tougher shows just because of the show hours. So you have to be up fairly early, whereas some of the other shows may not start until 9:30, 10 o'clock. You're pretty much kicking off right there at 8 o'clock in the morning with NRA. So, set two alarms and make sure you bring some Pedialyte and go along for the ride.
I've got kind of an idea of a NRA survival guide. Um, and like things that you think are musts, must nots, navigating the show, must go to places, and if you've got like a morning routine. I mean, for me, I don't care what the sleep is, sleep. You must sleep. And I mean, with me, as any time in my life, anybody that knows me knows that I'm pretty much always carrying around a giant container of water. I've had people refer to it as my emotional support water. Uh, I keep like a 40-ounce tumbler on me at all times. So those are my two biggest things. But what do you have as far as like musts for you?
So a couple of easy ones. Make sure you're not wearing a new pair of shoes for the first time. Make sure you're wearing something that's comfortable and broken in, because the last thing you want is a brand new pair of shoes for the first day of a show where you're on your feet all day long. For me personally, whether it's the liquid IVs or the Pedialytes, just to make sure you're staying hydrated and try to get some decent food in you. I'm very fortunate in the Hatco booth with Ovention and FWE that we have a pretty good variety of food products within the booth. So I'm not just living off of a fried food sample here and there as I'm walking past the booth. But really, it's just kind of go with the flow. Don't be too rigid. And, sometimes you're going to be tired, sometimes you're going to be out late. And I think just kind of going with the flow and being prepared is the best thing there. I mean, I would also make sure you understand how you're getting to and from the show, because the McCormick place especially is kind of positioned in a spot in Chicago where it's tough to get in and out. And if you're relying on Uber or taxi, that taxi line can be really, really long. So just knowing when you're kind of coming, when you're going from the show, making sure you have good dinner reservations, because there are so many good places to eat in Chicago. But those would be the big ones for me. Stay hydrated, wear good shoes, and just go with it.
I always try to leave myself enough time in the first day. Like, one of the things that I hate the most is like getting off a plane, going straight to whatever it is, and then like, going to dinner, and then back to the hotel. And at that point, you're so tired because you traveled all day, you learned a bunch of stuff. Maybe you were showing customers product or walking them through something. Then you're at a dinner. These dinners are never early because you've got to end the show. You've got to go through a full work day. You've got to, and then usually you want to give people a little bit of time, like, hey, why don't you run back to your hotel, kind of get yourself situated, make any phone calls you need to, catch up on some emails. All my clothes come out of my bag. Everything gets hung up. Everything that needs to be ironed is ironed. So if I'm there for 4 days, I'm ironing 4 shirts on day 1 so that the rest of the week I don't have to think about it when I wake up. Everything's ready to go. I'm good to go.
If you're really there for business, and I say that if you're really there, but if you have some very important things that you need to cover, I need to really find a good solution for holding my food product, or I need to do this. Sometimes the first and second day can just be chaotic. There's so many people there. It's the first 2 days of the show, so it's extremely busy. I've got some people over the years that have found that they'll come at the tail end of the show and they'll get Monday service day, and then Tuesday, when it's traditionally slower, if you want to be able to sit down for an hour in the booth and really work on trying to find solutions, sometimes the latter half of the show, it's a little less exciting, but you can get a little bit more done. Well, if you have to be there in the beginning and it's crazy and there's a lot of people there, you gotta just get to the booth as best you can. I've tried to set up appointments throughout the years, but they always seem to fall apart because inevitably you'll get delayed or I'll get delayed or I'll happen to have a customer right when you were supposed to be coming by. And, so some of that just goes out the window at these trade shows and you just do the best you can, kind of back to my original thought of just go with it. Don't be upset, just find a way to make it through.
I'll jump in. Navigating the show wise, not as much for you because you're in a booth all day. But I've gone as an end user, and I've gone as a rep. And I mean, you already said, comfortable shoes. Yeah, never buy a new pair of shoes right before you go to something like this, whether you're standing all day or walking all day. Whereas, I'm bouncing. I'm like a pinball. I'm bouncing from booth to booth, going back and forth, trying to see as much as I can. But even as a customer, it was winding in and out of aisles. And one thing that I will say is, as a customer, know that there is always going to be more food somewhere else and more to drink somewhere else. Do not take absolutely everything you see in the first pass. I remember I had one NRA that I went to. We went with my my old job, and it was my caterer and our caterer for the company and I. And I remember by the end of the day, we ended up somewhere, and the amount of fried food that I ate, it was like, imagine going to a dive bar and just ordering everything from the appetizer menu. That was what I felt like I had eaten all day. And I remember just being like, I just need vegetables. Like, we were talking about going to dinner, and we're like, we were planning on going to a nice dinner. I can't do it. So yeah, pace yourself. There's plenty to see. Speaking of food, do you have a must go to while you're there? Like, do you have a dinner you must have?
There's, hundreds of good restaurants in Chicago. It's probably one of the best places in the country to go, get any kind of variety of food that you're looking for. But my personal favorite is an Italian restaurant called Volare. Part of I've been going there 10 years now. There has been an NRA where I've had multiple dinners there, potentially 2, 3 times at the show. But there's just something special about it. It's one of those older buildings that's been added onto over the years, open kitchen. But, the owner, Benny, will be there to greet you and give you a big hug when you walk in. He'll personally come over to your table. So it's just one of those things when you're bringing customers out and you want them to experience a good time. When I schedule a dinner reservation there, I know that none of the things that you would normally worry about. Is the food going to be any good? Is the environment going to be okay? All those things are an afterthought because I know they're going to be great. So everyone has a great meal. It's just a very, and I suppose I'm Italian, so I'm a little bit partial to it, but it feels a little bit like Grandma's Kitchen came to Chicago. So that's my favorite place.
Oh, that's awesome. That's you brought up the multiple nights in a row. That's Chad's experience with Rosebuds on Rush. He has now been to, I know they have at least 2 locations, and that's just Rosebuds and other ones. And I know that because of Chad, because 2 NRAs ago, he got in a day early with Dustin from Iowa, and went, hey, I got a really good place we need to go to. So we took Dustin there on night 1. I think that was like a Friday before the show started. And then they ended up having dinner with one of our manufacturers, and that manufacturer had booked it for Rosebuds. And then Matt and I came in on Sunday night, and we were going to be there Monday and Tuesday that week. And so then Matt was like, oh yeah, I got this great place to take everybody. Love going where Rose. So Chad ate there 3 nights in a row. And he's like, I think I've had the whole menu at this point. And they do a brick chicken. He was about to order it, but there's like even a note on the menu. I can't remember if it's 45 minutes or 35 minutes or something, that like that's cook time alone. So if you order this, just understand you're going to be waiting for 40 minutes before it even comes out of the oven. And Chad was like, never mind. No one else seems like they're ordering anything that's going to take that long. I'll modify my order. So he says all the time that that's the only thing on the menu he still hasn't ordered. Mine is not which especially like with me being a chef, like I have plenty of dream restaurants that I'd love to go to in Chicago. There are also some that I'm not, the expense alone. It's like that's something I'm going to do on my own, my wife and I, and go sit down and enjoy that. I'm not about to be like, yeah, let's take some customers out to this place that's $250 a plate or whatever. But mine also is not like an expected, oh, that's the kind of place you take people to. Kuma's Corner is one of my go-tos every time I'm there, and it's a burger place. And they play heavy metal the whole time. They have TVs throughout the place, but they're not showing sports. They're playing horror movies. Their burgers are phenomenal, and staff's always amazing. Their draft selection is incredible. They have, well, it depends on what location you are. I can't say it because I haven't been to, both locations. But they have, like big drop-down pipe towers that have just a ton of options. So for me, that's always a necessity, and it's almost always a very low-key, like I'm taking one or two people with me, and we're just going to go hang out, have a burger, have a much more low-key experience than, going out and ordering bottles of wine and multiple courses. Matt just has an NRA tradition that he goes and watches the Preakness, because it's always the same weekend as NRA, at Kitty O'Shea's, which is in walking distance of McCormick Place. So whichever day that is, it works out great for us because we walk and sit there, have a beer, make stupid dollar bets with each other. I mean, legitimately, there'll be a pool and everybody's throwing in a single dollar bill. And then by that point, the show traffic has alleviated. People have started to go. You're not fighting for taxis. You can grab an Uber easier. You can get on the train wherever you need to head to, get back to your hotel, and get ready for dinner. Another story, and then we probably need to wrap it up. Chad and I one year, I swear the two of us together should be banned from going on work travels together. And this Uber driver, presumably, still am unsure. Babe, if you're listening to this, close your ears for this part. The Uber driver, like, for some reason, like, cuts around everybody in that roundabout and pulls off way on the side, away from everybody. And he, like, jumps out, and Chad and I are standing there. I'm on my phone trying to see if I can find a different place to get a pickup or something. And he sees Chad and goes, hey, my friend, come here. And Chad's like, dude, I got us a ride. Let's go. And just starts walking. Chad, no, I don't know if this is a good... He's like, yeah, come on, man. He's in the car. And I'm like, well, I can't let him go alone. So we get in the car. We get in the back, and that's when it hits him. Oh, maybe this wasn't a great idea. And so he's legitimately taking pictures of the, like, posted license and information and everything for the driver, and he's texted his wife, and he's like, if I don't text you back in 20 minutes because this is how far it is, call somebody. Here's the information that's needed. With that, thank you so much for joining us, Ryan. Look forward to seeing you at NRA in a few weeks, and it was a great time. Always enjoy getting to chat with you. See you, man.
Appreciate it.
All right, well, thanks for listening, everybody. This has been episode 2 of Cooked with Eric Reed, and we'll keep going. Thanks for spending the time with us today and listening to what Ryan had to share about the NRA show, stories that we had from it, and anything that you can look forward to seeing while you're there. Like I said, reach out to us if you're planning on being at the show, and we'd love to see you. We'd love to get you by some of the booths, spend a little time with you, and really get to hear your stories, what it is you need, and what you enjoy about food service world and the show itself. Just like last time, if you have any fun stories from being in food service, kitchen, front of house, whatever it might be, drop them in the comments, send us a message. We'd love to hear them and get some other people's experiences in this crazy world of food service. Thanks again, and have a great day.